And what's really funny too is how like there are times I will still find like sealed Web of Spider-Man products somewhere.
Oh yeah, me too for sure. And like even there's by the way, we're going live right now. But
Okay.
we could just still kind of talk in between see if anybody's actually going to join or not. But so yeah, I find sealed boxes of Web of Spider-Man. There's still sealed boxes of Marvel Knights, Justice League, um, and Marvel Origins. Those are like the common ones that I mostly see nowadays.
Yeah, there was a while where uh Marvel Knights was one I swear some stores for whatever reason or distributors I should say couldn't give away. It's like they didn't have booster boxes of it. What they had were like leftover sneak peek like brown box of just card of just packs full of it like they were supposed to be for an event or a prize.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I am echoing.
No, I just played it on my phone because I wanted to make sure it was streaming on YouTube. So
Oh,
that's probably what
okay.
you just heard. But we're just gonna wait just a little bit before we get started.
No problem.
A couple of minutes.
What was crazy is this was probably about back in like 2012 area.
Mm-hmm.
There was a local gaming store that kind of opened and closed. They were around for about 3 years, but he was showing me some of like his distributors that you could get stuff from, like Southern Hobby or Aladdin or one of those. And I remember seeing on the list there were Versus System boxes he could get. And at one point, he could get Marvel Evolutions boxes for $13.
Wow.
And I was just like, huh, I haven't played that game in years. Well, wish everyone luck. And then thinking about it now, I'm like, it was $13. Why didn't I get some?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Okay, so we'll wait a couple more minutes to see if anybody shows up, but besides that, we'll maybe wait about another 3 minutes and then we'll just kind of start from there, I think.
Sounds great. I got my pop filter covering the mic.
Oh man. I used to use one of those back in the day, but ever since I got the Blue Yeti mic, I just use that now.
Oh, that's what I got, a Blue Yeti.
Oh, you do? Oh, cool.
It's a black one. I
Yep.
got it. It's pointed. I got it as a. I bought it on probably Amazon. There was a special that came with headphones, a little pop filter, and that.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
It wasn't bad. No, it's just I watch way too much YouTube because of my job. Like I walk
Mm.
for 8 to 10 hours a day, so we can just listen to podcasts and other stuff. And there's few things worse than when someone is trying to like sync an AirPod to a tablet, and the whole time it's dropping out, and they're like, "Oh, hey, buddy, oh, listen to you again. Oh no."
Right. Um. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this thing. I'm just gonna count down, and then we'll just start from there. Okay.
Sounds great.
All right. In three, two, one. Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Brandon, also known as a Super Fanboy Guy, and welcome everybody to my first live episode of the Playground series. Yeah, I'm doing a first a live stream on YouTube because I thought this might be a good opportunity for people to just kind of come in and maybe ask some questions later on in the stream. But this is actually going to be episode 10 of the Playground series, and we're going to be talking about the Teen Titans deck. Now, with me, I have my special guest, Mr. Andrew Bircher. Andrew, how you doing today?
Doing great in this frozen wasteland we call Iowa.
Oh man, are you guys getting a lot of snow up there?
Snowing pretty good today, but tomorrow we've got some great wind coming. It'll be about only minus 40.
Oh my gosh. Actually, I live in Southern California, and the place that I live around Ventura County, but I commute to LA for work in Valencia, and I got there in the morning and it was like 30 degrees. So it's been colder than usual in California.
I think it's all Canada's fault. They're tired of the cold. They're just kind of pushing it our way.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? Oh, very funny. So, anyway, Andrew, I wanted to bring you on this episode of the Playground series because we're going to be talking about the Teen Titans deck. And from what I understand, you were a Teen Titans aficionado back in the day. Is that kind of a correct statement to say?
Yes, the Teen Titans was pretty much the main deck I played the first almost 2 years I played Versus. So it was pretty much the deck that got me into playing because I, since I was a little kid, I actually read the Teen Titans comics and kind of paid attention to everything going on and kind of found out there was a card game where I could play with some of my favorite characters and decided to jump in.
All right, awesome. And I also want to say that, there's been very different versions of this deck in the past. I think a lot of people know the Gotham Knights Teen Titans build, the Brave and the Bold, as that's called. But today we're going to focus on just pure Teen Titans. So if everybody who's tuning into the live stream right now, you'll see the deck up right now in Octagon, and you can kind of see some of the cards. Well, at least I hope you can see some of the cards. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about the deck, and then we're also going to play test it a little bit later. So I guess the first thing that I want to ask for you, Andrew, is when you first played this deck, did you play it like competitively, or were you more like of a casual player, or what was your whole thing about it?
Pretty much just, I started off, we'll say casual, but I sort of lucked into the deck I started with when playing the game happened to be really good. So I was quickly just kind of starting the game and winning matches. So it went pretty quick from casual to competitive.
Oh, okay, awesome. So, the other question I wanted to ask you too about this deck, because this is, would you say that, I mean, there is a lot of competitive decks in versus system, like the Sentinel deck, and what else was there? There's Sentinel, the Brotherhood deck. But I really feel like that Teen Titans was probably the first competitive DC deck because that really a lot of the cards came out in DC Origins. So would you agree with me when I say this is probably the first competitive DC deck ever made?
Yes, I would definitely go with that. Gotham Knights always came close to getting somewhere if, either by themselves or teamed up with Titans or even the League of Assassins in the My Beloved decks, but Titans itself was the probably best deck out of DC Origins.
Okay, awesome. So I guess normally how I do my Playground series episodes, I usually talk about the deck and then I play test the deck. Did you want to kind of talk about the deck in general and what it does, or did you want to go over the individual cards? What would be comfortable for you?
First, if we want to, either way is great. If we want to talk about the cards first, we can do that.
Okay. So I think what we'll do is I'll try to power through the deck really quick. I'll just go over the cards, and then maybe you could talk about some of the cool things you can do with the deck, and then hopefully when we get to the playtest portion of the deck, you can kind of go into more detail. But let's just kind of go over it really quick. So let's start with our one-cost characters. So there's one copy of Panthera, subject X24. Panther gets +2 attack while attacking. And then we also have the 3 copies of Dawn Granger Dove. She gets, while you control Hank Hall, he gets +1. She gets +1/+1. And then she has a boost effect when she comes to play. You can search your deck for a character named Hank Hall, put him in the play. And we have 2 copies of that Hank Hall. So he does kind of a similar thing where while you control Don Granger, he gets +2/+2, and then boosts 1 when he comes into play. If you control Don Granger, search your, or if you don't control Don Granger, I forgot about that. You get to search for her and put her into play. So they're both they kind of pair up with each other very nicely. And then the next card after that is going to be 4 copies of Tim Drake Robin, the young detective. If a team attacker you control would become stunned, you may stun another team attacker you control instead. And he has a boost 2 effect. When he comes to play, characters you control cannot be stunned while attacking this turn. And then I would say probably one of the most important cards in the deck is 4 copies of Roy Harper Arsenal. Sharpshooter, you get to exhaust a Teen Titans character you control. He gets +2 attack this turn. Activate KO a resource you control. You get to stun a character with costs less than Roy Harper's attack. And then after that, we have 2 copies of Beast Boy, Garfield Logan. Whenever Beast Boy attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on him. Whenever he defends, you do the same thing. Put a +1/+1 counter on him. Next, we have 4 copies of the 4-cost Terra Markov. Loyalty, activate, KO a location you control. If you do, place the top card of your deck into your resource row. Stun target character with a cost of 3 or less. And then we have another 4-cost character, 3 copies of Red Star. And he's Lenoid Kovar, I think is how you pronounce it. Whenever he becomes powered up, he cannot be stunned while attacking this turn, and you get to pay 1 resource point. And target a player loses 5 endurance. Use this power only once per turn. And if you control another Teen Titans character. Next, we have probably also one of the essential important cards of the deck. We have 4 copies of Garth Tempest, Atlantean Sorcerer. Loyalty, pay 3 endurance. Return target character from your KO pile to your hand. Use this power only once per turn. Next, we have 1 copy of Cassie Sandsmark, Wonder Girl, Zeus is Chosen. Cassie Sandsmark cannot be stunned by a character with a cost of 6 or more. While Cassie Sandmark is defending, apply breakthrough as normal. So that's kind of what she does. And then we're going to go to our 6-cost characters, which we have 1 copy of Coriander Starfire, Alien Princess. Activate, stun target support row character with cost less than or equal to the number of Teen Titan characters in your KO pile. And then the last character we have in the deck is Connor Kent, Superboy, Tactile Telekinetic. Wow, that's kind of a tongue twister there. Exhaust a Teen Titans character you control. Connor Kent gets +2 defense this attack. Pay 2 endurance, KO target equipment and opponent controls. So that will kind of finish it off for the characters. And let's move on to the locations. 3 copies of Titans Tower. Activate, discard a Teen Titans character card with cost X. Target Teen Titans attacker or defender you control gets +X this attack. Next, we have 4 copies of Tamaran. Activate, put the top card of your deck into your KO pile. Power up target Teen Titans attacker or defender. It gets pretty much +1/+1 when it becomes powered up. Next, we have 3 copies of USS Argus. If you would draw a card during the draw phase, skip that draw instead. Activate, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Put 1 of them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Use this power only during the build phase and only if you control a Teen Titans character. And finishing off our location cards, we have 3 copies of Optitron. Pay 1 resource, discard a Teen Titans character. Search your deck for a Teen Titans character card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Use only once per turn. And let's go on now with the plot twist cards. We have 3 copies of Savage Beatdown, which is a card that everybody knows. Pretty much, target attacker gets +5 attack. Next, we have 4 copies of Finishing Move. To play, exhaust a character you control, KO target stun character. Next, we have 4 copies of Teen Titans Go. Ready all Teen Titans characters that have become team attackers this turn. They can't cause breakthrough this turn. Next, we have 3 copies of Press the Attack. Play only if you control 4 or more exhausted non-stun characters. Ready target character. And then after that, we have 2 copies of Betrayal. Target an opponent who controls two or more characters with different team affiliations. That opponent stuns a non-stun character he controls. And the last card of the deck, we have two copies of Heroic Sacrifice. As an additional cost to play Heroic Sacrifice, stun a non-defending Teen Titans character you control, exhaust target Teen Titans defender you control, and remove all attackers from this attack. So I went by really fast. And Andrew, now I want to kind of ask you, what are some of the combos that you could do with this deck?
One of the great things about Titans is that a lot of the cards just all work together. I think they're one of the first real strong synergy decks that Versus came out with. In decks and kind of cards, teams around the same time, because this is DC Origins, Marvel Origins, you'd have a lot of individually strong cards, but Titans, everything sort of just works together great. They're not, let's say, individually super powerful. It's more the whole together. For instance, one of the most basic combos is Tim Drake Robin plus Red Star. And because Tim Drake has his ability that if a team attacker would become stunned, you can stun someone else. Basically, instead of your opponent choosing who to stun, you choose. Which is really convenient because Red Star has an ability to be unable to stun while attacking if he gets powered up. So basically, any team attack involving Red Star with Tim Drake on the field becomes you're unstunnable.
Huh, that's pretty interesting. And also, now I was wondering if you can kind of talk about the combo with Terra and USS Argus.
Yes. The basic turn 4 play that every Titans player loved is during the build step, you recruit your Terra, and then to use her effect, you got to KO location. Well, an amazing location to use is Argus because you get to look at the top 4 cards. You get to add one, so you're plus on a card right there, a little bit of search. And you get to skip that horrendous drawback of skipping your draw phase because you're using it to Terra's effect and probably stunning Dr. Light. Is a favorite target of mine.
Now, which Dr. Light is that? Is that again?
Oh, the 3-drop Emerald Enemy.
Is that the one that's currently banned?
Back then he wasn't, so.
Okay. I guess that makes sense too. Yes, because I don't know if we talked about it or not, but this is definitely a much older build of the Teen Titans deck. So obviously this deck was built around a time when certain cards were kind of being run rampant around in the competitive gameplay scene. So that Dr. Light, which I will put an image of that Dr. Light, in the post edit, and then people watching this on YouTube can take a look at it too. But that Dr. Light just like made a lot of broken decks and just definitely needed to be banned. So now if you play this version of the deck, in today's current meta, then you don't have to worry about that Dr. Light. But of course you do have to worry about other decks, kind of that came out after this deck was made too. So there's that to consider as well. So, okay. So another thing that I want to talk about with this deck is, you made this deck 61 cards. Is there a particular reason why you decided to put in that extra card for this deck?
This deck build is basically what I played. This is roughly, anywhere in probably late 2005, early 2006. For whatever reason back then, friends and I had this idea of Power of Prime. You had one more card than your opponent because if you went to deck out, you would have one more. It's really silly. That's just what we went with back then. Mostly because I kind of like the numbers for most things. There's pretty easy ways to cut it down to 60. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to put in there. I just ended up with 61.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, so, and then the last kind of strategy that I want to talk about with this deck is, can you kind of go over a little bit about kind of like what are some of the cool like team attacks you could do with this deck?
No problem. we already talked a little bit about the Tim Drake and Red Star combo. As long as you got those two on the board, you can, and if you have enough Teen Titan Go's in hand, you can wipe out your opponent's field without losing a guy yourself. Always useful.
Right.
What's also pretty nice is different because the way Teen Titans Go is worded, you ready everyone. So there's lots of weird little tricks you can do. For instance, like you can team attack with Terra. So let's say it's turn 6, your opponent's got Bastion from the Sentinels out. You're throwing your board at him to attack him. While the attack is going on, you can play Teen Titans Go, ready everyone, then use Terra's effect to take out a 3-drop that might still be on the field, with her attack still going to Bastion. And the same thing kind of works with Roy Harper as well. You can make some really amazing plays with him and Teen Titans Go in the idea that you can do it either a different way, but you can attack with Roy or leave him to the side. A lot of times you leave him to the side. But you can attack with everyone, play Teen Titans Go, ready your team attackers. So sometimes you've got 4 or 5 team attackers out there. And now that they're ready, you can exhaust them all to Roy. So Roy gets +2 attack for each exhausted Titan. So now Roy's got anywhere from, in this example, +8, +10 attack. Now the attack resolves. Your team there has already stunned the opponent. Roy's sitting there now at
Stun the
anywhere
opponent
from
or the character?
opponent's character. I mean,
Oh yeah, okay. Because I like that's a pretty powerful card if you could stun an opponent.
yes. No, I meant stun the opponent's character.
Okay.
Now Roy, he's still ready to go for the rest of the turn, and he wasn't. And then you can use his effect to either attack straight through with that 14 attack. Maybe you got a clear field there. That's a straight 14 to the face. Or you can send him off to another character or start using his effect to KO guys out of combat stuns. Or you can, if you need to, just depending on how your field is, if he's a part of your attacks and you have multiple Teen Titan Goes, sometimes you can go real crazy with some things. So imagine you've got a field where you've got, let's say, 4 or 5 Teen Titans members. This is turn 6, 7, real late game play. You attack with everyone, including Roy. You play Teen Titans Go, ready everyone. Exhaust every non-Roy Teen Titan. So now Roy, let's say, we'll just go with an amount attack. You can then use his effect to stun the defender. If his attack obviously is higher than the defender's. Now, since the defender is no longer there, everyone magically readies because the defender is removed from combat.
Right.
So now, Roy is still boosted and readied. Everyone else is now ready. You can either exhaust him again to make Roy even bigger, or you can team attack another character, have Roy use his effect to take another guy out, team attack here and there as you need to wipe out the rest of the field. It's just sort of a snowballing avalanche of things you can do involving Roy Harper and if you have a couple other Titans out.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's definitely kind of a cool thing you could do with the deck. And the other thing that I just want to talk about before we play test the deck is that I just want to talk about this Garth Tempest, the 5-drop for a second. So obviously the pay 3 endurance to return a card from your KO pile is huge because, for an example, you can play a card like Savage Beatdown, give him +5 attack, pay 3 endurance to bring it back into your hand and deal another +5 for a total of +10 attack. So that's something kind of cool that you could do with the deck. And also, I just want to say that, you being a Teen Titans player that you are, Now, we all know that there is another card very similar to Garth that has been reprinted in a certain set called DC Legends. And I have no doubt that you know what that card is, and that is Black Mana Underwater Marauder, who is the pretty much the exact same card as Garth, but the only difference is the Black Mana is significantly more money. So
Yes.
I wanted to kind of bring that to people's attentions because, in your, I mean, the opinion why that Black Mana is so expensive is because it was in a number one, it was in a low print run set, the DC Legends, and number two, the Secret Society deck just seems to be a little bit more popular than the Teen Titans deck, and I think mainly because I think there was more copies of Garth printed than the Black Mana, because you also have access to the EA Garth. Now, the EA Garth may still be a little harder to find this day and age, but the fact that there were more printings of this Garth more than the Black Mana make it a little bit less in value, but the price difference is still doesn't justify that. You know what I'm saying?
It was amazing in the DC Legends set because Black Mana was basically a reprint of Garth under a different name, and also Firestorm on the Justice League was a reprint of Red Star.
Okay.
They've got the same text box and everything. It's like, well, it must have been a good card if it is a completely separate character.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. So, okay, I think that kind of talks about the deck profile. We kind of talked about all of that stuff in the deck. So, Andrew, why don't we go ahead and move to the playtest session, and I'll kind of, play the deck, and maybe you can kind of guide me or give me some advice about the deck. So, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about the deck before we moved on to the next segment?
Sure, there's a couple of as it's being shown right now. That's just sort of how I was kind of playing it towards the end of when I was using it a lot. There's a lot of little variations anyone can kind of play with. It's sort of just kind of as your play group, or if you happen to be playing in a versus tournament in 2022, there's certain cards you can definitely kind of swap out. Mostly, it's kind of like in the slots where the Betrayal is. Sometimes it's Betrayal, maybe you want Foiled or Kaboom, or another kind of plot twist in there. There's one nice thing I liked about the Titans deck at that time is it did have a little bit of wiggle room, so you could kind of easily tech some cards like that
Right.
and not really lose any efficiency in the deck.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting. So, okay, let's go ahead and then just play test it. So I'll just close and shuffle here.
See what we get.
Okay, so let me. Oh, and also another question I forgot to ask you: does this deck want to go on the odd or even initiative?
That's a great question, and I think even me, who played hundreds of games of this thing back in 2000, in the early 2000s, I couldn't tell you. It's because in different matchups, you liked being odd or even. I always, in general, I picked odds just because of the meta at the time. You could easily do evens too, but
Okay,
either
so with
I was gonna say sorry.
no, go ahead,
on,
go ahead. Sorry.
on default, I would say odds probably, just because ideally you like to use Terra on turn 4 during an off initiative, so you're stunning things off turn, and on 7 is normally a lot of players and other decks, kind of a boss monster end of the game sort of thing.
Okay.
And so you're with your field, you're going to take down theirs ideally in those kind of rounds. 6 to 7, yeah.
Okay. So just for sake of argument, we'll just say we'll take the odd initiative then, and then let's go ahead and get started. So you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my opening hand?
Oof, that does not do anything for you at the
Well,
start.
I guess that's a yes. You can see my opening hand, and I guess so. With this hand, what's a typical opening hand you want with this deck? Like, what's the god hand as it's been told in other card games.
Oh gosh. If you could actually hit like Dove, like if you could go Dove turn one, Hawk turn two without having to search, and then turn three you could start dropping down like Robin and a Panther. That would be a pretty strong open for you. But that's happens one every 20 games or something maybe. So that's
Okay.
not. But
All
yeah,
right.
let's see what happens when we
Take a
kind of
mulligan.
mulligan.
All right. Mulligan. All right. So we did get the Dawn, which is nice. Now since we have her on in our hand, well, I guess let's see what we draw first. So we're gonna take the odd initiative. So let's go
Yep.
ahead and draw 2 cards. Okay.
Ooh, that's okay. No, this is. I mean, it's not ideal because you got three of the same mid-game character in hand, but
Yep.
you can work with this. You can definitely work with this.
Okay. So I guess since we're going first, we're gonna want to obviously put Tamaran face down in our resource row.
Mhm.
And now, is it better to recruit Dawn Granger now or to wait for her boost effects?
In the hand we have here, I would say recruiter because if the worst thing worse is she's a body on the field and turn two, you're gonna have let's say we don't have a two drop for turn two. We already have Hank in hand. So at worst, you're gonna have a 4/4 two drop and a 2/2 one drop. So you're gonna have 6 power on turn two to work with.
Okay,
So
gotcha. Okay, so let's say our opponent takes their turn, they build their stuff, and now we come to our combat phase. Now, do we want to attack and activate Tamaran, or do we just want to attack normally?
it, if they've got a 1/1 out, you could do a trade as long as there's if you don't think a total anarchy or something is gonna pop up.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
that's good to consider.
but if you do, and we do have the Tamaran, so we can always pump if we need to, especially if they have a trick. But I would say on turn one, if it's just my one drop, your one drop, we trade.
Okay, so like let's say we attack, they have a 1 drop, and then we both take stun damage, for example,
Mm.
like that. And then we go to recovery. We obviously would recover her. And let's go to the next turn. So we'll draw our 2. So 1 and 2. Okay.
This isn't all right. We're working here. This isn't bad.
All right. So then turn 2, they take their turn. They do their build phase. Probably play a character. Then let's go ahead and do our build phase. So obviously we put the Teen Titans Go in our resource row since it's our only plot twist card. And then you're saying the recruit Hank Hall, obviously, because
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
our 2 drop. So then we're going to get the +2/+2 from him and the +1/+1 from her. So with this field, how would we want to arrange?
You could. What's kind of fun about this field is it's real early in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
In an ideal scenario, your 4/4 Hank is going to be bigger in general than most other two drops
Right.
because on average they're going to be like a 3/2, a 3/3, or sometimes still a 2/3. So he's going to be big enough. Now Dove, she's a 2/2. You could do two options. The easiest one is just put Dove behind Hawk, force them to get over Hawk first. Or if you wanted to get tricksy, since we do have a Tamarin face down, leave them both face up, or leave them both in the front row. Your opponent will probably try to attack Dove, and I mean it's obviously depending on what kind of power stats your opponent has, but if they've got a 2/3 or something like that going on, you can easily flip Tamarin, survive with your power up, and then now you've got 6 power on your end to smack them back with. Otherwise, if it's just a general, you could probably put Dove behind Hawk and just play it safe.
Okay, let's take that scenario then and just play it like this.
Yeah, because now your opponent would have to have like a 2 drop with 3 attack and like a flying kick or something to deal damage to you.
Right. So let's say they attack with a let's say a 3/3 to our 4/4, and let's say they power up from hand, so they it's a 4/4 to our 4/4. That would be now would we activate Tamaran in that response?
Yeah.
So yeah. So then let's go ahead and just play that out. We put this into the KO pile, and we get +1/+1, and then either we stun them back, or they play another card out of their hand and they um, play a card in the hand, and we end up getting, stunning Hank Hall. But let's play out the best case scenario, and let's say they don't have anything else, so they would take their stun damage, and then I guess we would be able to attack with Hank Hall depending on what they have on their side of the field. But let's just play it out that way. So then let's go to recovery now, and we can go to turn 3. So let's go ahead and draw 2 cards, 1 and 2. And we hit, now, unfortunately, we did not hit a plot twist or a location, so we're going to have to burn something here. So obviously, we're probably going to have to put Tempest in the resource row, right?
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Okay. But fortunately, we do have a 3-drop, so obviously recruit this Roy Harper. And okay, so now on turn 3, how would we form our teams or our field of cards?
I'd probably put Hawk Dove up front and then Roy behind either one of them.
Okay, so
Maybe behind Hawk, just yeah.
Something like that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then we take their opponent takes their turn, they play their cards, and then let's go ahead and go to the combat phase. And okay, so what will we do in this scenario?
What's kind of fun about this right here is Hawk is still pretty big. He's a 4/4 with Tamarin. He's a 5/5 that should trade or be bigger than a lot of 3-drops out there. So you can, if worse came to worse, like your opponent has, let's say, what's a big 3-drop? Did they ever make bigger ones than Wolverine? Like 6/6 was always kind of like the biggest 3-drop.
Yeah.
And besides,
I mean,
unless
I can't think off the top of my head, but let's say the Wolverine, yeah, that's a good example. So let's go there.
okay, I mean, unless you think of like Mamamax or something who's like a 7/4, but then
Right.
that'd be actually easier. But yeah, let's say they've got 3-drop Wolverine out there. Worst comes to worst, you team attack with Hawk and Dove, take out their 3-drop.
Okay. If you want to play on a safer level.
Yeah, because you've got 6 power right there, and he's only going to be able to stun one back.
Mm-hmm.
And you trade your 2-drop Hawk for their 3-drop Wolverine, and ideally Roy is going to be able to walk over the 2-drop that might still be there, and if need be, you've got Tamaran to give him a little boost.
Oh, okay, perfect. So let's say we want to do that boost with Tamaran, right? So we could put this there. Oh, that was a big one to hit. But, I mean, I guess on turn 5, we could, in theory, get that back with Garf, too. So maybe it wasn't the worst. So
yeah, it's not bad. Not bad.
Okay.
And in this, I was going to say, in this scenario, you've taken out 2 of their guys, and you've only lost 1. You're winning here. You're winning so far.
Right. So then if we go to recovery, we would obviously recover Hawk and still have all of our characters, too.
Yep.
So, okay. So let's go ahead and ready everybody. And we are going to turn... Oops, forgot about that one. We're going to turn 4 next. So 1 and 2. So...
Not bad.
Oh, getting a plot twist is always nice to put in a resource row because we don't want to have to burn another character card.
Yep.
So, okay. So it's their initiative. They take their build. And they do all their stuff. And then let's go ahead and go to our build and play this face down. And then I guess Terra would be our recruit for the turn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so how would we... So it's not our initiative. How would we form the team this time?
In this scenario, you could honestly leave Terra up front. Maybe protect Dove. She's kind of a sacrifice anyways, because you've got the heroic sacrifice going on. So if they've got some massive savage beatdown plays, or they're dropping a Sabretooth, the 11-7, and they're just gonna fly in there and try to destroy you. Heroic sacrifice. Oh, good. You basically hit Dove. Good job, and I take no damage.
Okay.
Uh, but so you can do it that way, or if you wanted to do it the other way, where Dove stays up front and then Terra isn't back, you can kind of play that way too. There's a couple different ways you can do it depending on the situation. Just because my thinking about this is what I would think about is put Terra up front because she's a 6-7, she's got a little bit of a butt to her. It's it's also kind of like a draw for your opponent who has perhaps a 7-7 to run into her. And in that scenario, this is all theory here, but your opponent's got a 7-7, you've got Terra. They want to get rid of Terra. So they'll attack that 7-7 into Terra. You, if that happened, would then use Tamaran, make her a 7-8, then use Terra's ability, replace that Tamaran, and take out their 3-drop. So it's basically, with Terra there, you're trying to set up, you can easily set up a 2-for-1 play, basically.
Okay. So you're saying doing something like this, and then will we put
Yeah.
Hank in the back row and Roy in the front?
No, leave Hank up front. He's a 4-4. Roy's a 4-4, basically, or a 4-3, so Hank can stay up front.
Okay. So
And
yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry. And so you can do it that way, or if you have some other plays possibly you could think of, you can leave, because if you leave Dove up front, you're already in this scenario. You're kind of already ahead in a way because you've done an attack or two straight on them earlier. It's only 2 damage here, 4 damage there, so you're not really worried about them smashing over because you can never forget you do have heroic sacrifice. You can even kind of leave Dove over there to see if they take the bait of if they do have that Sabretooth and you're like, hey, Dove's just sitting here, you want to ramp, you've got 2 new Brotherhoods face up. You've got what would that make him? 15 power Sabretooth. Little Dove is just sitting over here doing nothing. And, try your best to make Dove a target because if they do try to go all in on her, you've got the heroic sacrifice right there. You sacrifice, Hawk, and you waste who knows how many cards and their attack with their biggest guy. So,
Okay.
it's kind of a lure, but either way, you can kind of go with it. In this, you can put Dove behind Terra, let's say.
Yeah, I was about to say let's play out that scenario. We'll formation something kind of similar to this, and let's say that they do have a character that attacks the Terra, right? So
Yep.
let's go ahead and do that. So they have a 7. Let's just say they have a 7-7 that attacks Terra, right? And we pass the priority back to them. Let's say they decide to do nothing. I guess the first thing we could do is just activate Tamaran, right?
Yes.
And then we mill another Tamaran, which is +1/+1. So she becomes a 7-8 like we talked about earlier. Now, if they play maybe another card like a Savage Beatdown or something to try to stun her back, then before she gets stunned, we could actually activate Terra, replace this Tamaran.
Yes.
And so it goes there, and we're going to put this one there, and it's actually... Oh, press the attack. That's kind of interesting. I want to flip that and put that there. So this now... If we had enough... Now, drawing this press the attack just made me think about something. So since we did that, now what we could do is if we had another location, we could actually exhaust Hank Hall, Dove, and Arsenal for his ability. So we have 4 characters exhausted. Then we could flip up, press the attack to ready Terra to maybe get another activation on her. But we also do lose the chance to attack with Roy Harper. So maybe that's not the best idea after I'm thinking about it. But
depending on the deck you're playing, it could be.
Right. And then, or the other thing is you exhaust. Or here's another thing. Let's say, depending on what they have on their field, you can exhaust Hank Hall, you can exhaust Dove for Roy's effect, so he gets a +8 attack. You can activate him to stun a character, and then you can flip up, press the attack, ready Roy Harper, and then stun another character potentially.
Actually, that would. Don't forget, you do have to KO a resource to use his effect. So,
Oh, right. That's right. I forgot.
right.
Okay, maybe that's not the best scenario then. Um, okay, I did forget about that. See, this is so glad while you're here, so you can see me with these kind of things.
Yeah, no, bro, you got the right idea. It's just, uh, ideally, wait about till turn 6 before we start doing some of that stuff.
Okay.
And but this draw that you've had so far has really kind of fixed itself because that Tamaran has moved stuff. Or the one we'd been using to power up has been kind of milling and moving stuff out of the way we really didn't need necessarily. And the
Right.
replace really helped out, and that was my cat.
Oh,
And so it's working out pretty good in this scenario, especially if you're against another curve deck. They've only got a 3 and a 4 right now against
mm-hmm.
your little suite going on right here.
Right.
And Terra alone is taking out both of them, more or less, because they got to go after Terra. And Terra's going to activate and take out their 3-drop. So trades all day, and like we talked about before, you've always got the heroic sacrifice backup if needed. Then, if that's their turn, Terra's stunned, their 4-drop stunned, their 3-drop stunned.
Right.
You're attacking for what we got here, 4 plus 6. So you're gonna attack for 10. Because I'm in this, you would exhaust.
On for Roy Harper. Then.
Yep.
So you attack with Hank and then attack with Roy.
Yep. So 10 in the face. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. So let's say that happens to us, and let's say we recover Terra. Let's just go ahead and go to our recovery phase. And so now it's turn 5, which is going to be our initiative. So we'll draw 1 and 2. Okay. So, man, we're really hurting on locations and resources this game.
Yeah, but
it happens. Oops.
It happens. But, depending on the scenario, that 3-drop might be gone now because if we stun both their 4 and the 3, they're probably going to keep the 4.
Right.
So, might not even have anything. But yeah, this isn't actually that bad. It's not going to be the most explosive and tricky necessarily, but no, this is pretty good, honestly.
Right.
Because
okay.
we're
all right. Cool. So let's go ahead and recruit. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry. Sorry. Let's recruit Garth Tempest. So now his ability, is that something we want to wait to see if things happen, or do we want to activate that right away?
No, we can activate it any time, so we can just kind of see how things work out.
All right, so we're going to be attacking this turn, so we definitely want to put Dove in the front if she's still around at this point. Maybe since we have 3 characters with range, we could put at least maybe 2 of them down here and maybe do some kind of formation like this, maybe.
Or just put Tempest in the back row too. Just kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just something like that.
Yep, he's got range, so he can do things back there. Yeah, and we've got, if I remember right, we've got, 2 press the attacks, Teen Titans.
Yeah, we got to press the attack, Teen Titans go, that card that doesn't do anything, Heroic Sacrifice, and press the attack.
Okay, there's pretty much a lot we can do here. It's going to be a little harder because we don't have, a Tim Drake or a Red Star to just soak up the easy, I call it the easy form of Titans, where you've got, your Red Star and your Tim Drake, and you can just throw your field and not worry about any stun back.
Right.
But in this case, no, we've got a lot going on. Mostly just because we can play pretty fast and loose with Hawk and Dove, because as the game's kind of going, they're going to be less important, let's say.
Uh-huh.
If we go with the scenario, your opponent is probably got a 4 and a 5-drop. If you're playing against a curve deck,
right.
There's a lot of options we can do. We can just try to do an old-fashioned team attack a couple of guys straight into the 5 drop because it's I'm going to take for granted it's a 9/9, and if you take Terra, Hawk, and Dove, that's 12 attack. That should definitely get over it plus an acrobatic dodge if they might have that hanging in the background.
Oh, that's
Or
true. You want because when you attack, you want to be over a certain number of their defense. So if they're like a 10 defense, for an example, you want to make sure you could be over like 2 or 3 of that defense.
yeah,
When you attack or whatever the numbers. It's just that was just an arbitrary number I used. Maybe you want to go a little bit higher, but So yeah, let's play out that scenario where we team attack. What was it? Hank Hall, Dove, and Terra.
yeah.
Okay. And we do something like
So
that on their 5 drop.
yep.
That's maybe a 9/9 or a 10/10, right? So that
Mhm.
means we have 4, 5, 6, and 12 going
Yes,
into
sir.
their 10 defense. So now we don't need to do anything at this point, right?
No, unless because to get for them to get over that attack, let's say it's a 9/9, they would need a what was that? What's the they would need like a pretty big cover fire, which they probably don't have.
Mm-hmm.
They would need 2 acrobatic dodges, and if that's the case, we've got Tempest right there. We've got a Savage Beatdown in the graveyard. We can just get it back, play, and win that advantage battle of hand advantage. Or, and I'm trying to think if there's any. I'm sure there's probably some things I'm not thinking of, but no, in this case, we're doing pretty good.
Okay, so let's say, they can't. Okay, now I'm also. Okay, so then in this case, we stun their 5 drop and they probably stun Terra at this point, right?
Yeah,
So let's
I'd say so.
go
Yeah.
do that. And then let's say our opponent they have a stun 5 drop and a 4 drop. What's the next attack that we make here?
Now you can try to do like if you want to do basic versus, you can they've got a 7/7, you've got a 9/9 right there with Tempest. You can just attack down, and they might have a nasty surprise. They might have
Like
any other
power up kind of effects, whether it's
right.
discarding a character of that. So like, I guess a good scenario would be like, let's say the 4 drop, we're attacking Superman, Last Son of Krypton, right? That'd be a good way to do it. So let's say we're attacking that, right, with
Yeah.
him, and they could power him up twice with like 2 cards in hand, like 2 Superman cards, or they could play, like you said, nasty surprise. But attacking into their 7/7 4 drop with Tempest is just fine right now. And then,
Yep.
so they would take some. Now, do we want to try to wait to use his effect later to see if they do anything, or do we want to activate it now?
It all depends if they have kind of a trick. If in this scenario they've got the nasty surprise, you probably use Tempest to get back. I think there's a Savage Beatdown in the graveyard. I think it's the plot twist.
Yeah, in our KO pile. So let's go ahead and just
Yeah.
play right now, and just to show everybody. Yeah, so we'll get the Savage Beatdown back to our hand.
Yep.
And then let's say he does get stunned back, right? So we
Okay.
take that damage, and then we can attack with Roy Harper directly for some direct damage. Now, if let's say this Garth did not get stunned, then we could do some cool things where we play press the attack and go for more damage. But since we haven't lost the character at all during this playtest session, let's just go ahead and lose a character. So let's say, okay, we go to recovery. We obviously want to recover Garth, and then Terra can be the one that gets KO'd.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and play that out, and we'll take our next 2 cards, 1 and 2. Okay.
We're having fun.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we did not get our 6 drop, but it's our opponent's initiative, so they would do their
Yeah.
build first, right? And then okay, so let's say they play their 6 drop, so they have a 5 cost character and a 6 cost character. So do we want a resource savage beatdown or finishing move? My first idea was to put a finishing move in the resource row because if we play savage beatdown, we can pay 3 to get it back with Garth and have it back to our hand.
Yes.
Okay.
I go with that. Yep. Finish a move in the resource row.
Okay. Okay, so we actually have a couple of options here. See, I'm already kind of getting used to the deck, which is a lot of fun here. So what is the typical scenario? Do we want to... Well, what are our options? We could recruit Tara and Tim Drake for our 6 since we don't have a 6-cost character. We could also recruit Beast Boy and a Tim Drake 2. Or we could also just play Tim Drake and boost. But after reading him... he's really kind of effective where you want to have the initiative because if we boost them, they don't get stunned while attacking, which doesn't. It's kind of awkward when you don't have the initiative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think in this scenario, we can make it to where your opponent just won't have an attack phase.
Okay.
I think we've got the resource for it.
Okay. So should we just recruit these two?
Yeah, you could either do Tara and Robin or Robin and Beast Boy. Let's just do Tara and Robin.
Okay, let's just make use of our resource points. So we got Tara and we play Robin. Okay, so now what would our formation be like this turn?
That's not bad.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
So let's just assume they have a 5-cost and a 6-cost character out on their board, since that's how we've been kind of playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's their attack phase. Now, which character do you think they would most likely attack first?
Well, they've got to go through the front row, so you can kind of like the way we're set up in any other deck. If we didn't have Roy, this kind of formation we have set up is I'd call like a damage mitigation, where basically they would have, if they don't have a flying kick, for instance, or a flying character, they would have to get through any of our little guys up front. We could reinforce, oh, good job, your 12/12 6-drop attacked Dove, and I reinforce it with Tara. I took 1 damage. Good work.
Right.
But no, it's so they would probably, a lot of players I've played against way back then, they would get kind of a tunnel vision thing, and a lot of times they would try to take Roy off the field.
Okay.
Or going after Tempest wouldn't be bad either, because he's the biggest card on the field. He can regrowth. That regrowth is always going to happen. But if you can you're going to have to get to either one of them. So
I have an idea. How about this? Why don't we roll a 6-sided dice? Hank being 1, Don being 2, etc., and whatever the result of that dice is let's play out. That's the character our opponent attacks.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and roll a 6-sided dice, and the number is a 2. So let's say they attack Don Granger for whatever reason, which I don't see them really attacking that. But I don't know. Maybe that dice was a bad idea to do. So I guess they would either attack Roy or Garth, right? Those would be the 2 targets, I would assume. Let's say they attack. Let's say their 6-drop attacks Garth, because that would be the most damage, right? So let's just play out that scenario. So they're going after Garth. We say the attack is legal, right? They decide to pass priority. So at this point, do we want to reinforce with Tara, or do we want to maybe save this reinforcement if they attack Roy Harper?
Well, what's great about that sort of situation, they've got that 5-drop sitting back. He's not doing much. Mm-hmm. And the 6-drop's committed to Tempest. Right. So there's in this scenario, there's kind of a couple of fun things we can do. Now we know we've got the heroic sacrifice. So if anything goes south, we can play heroic sacrifice, and basically your opponent will stun Dove, no matter what, because because and the attack will be over, basically negating their attack. So, or we can have some more fun of you can exhaust. Uh, let's see here. Their 5 drop would be like a 9/9, so we would need at least 10. So you could exhaust like Robin, Dove, and Hank to Roy, and that would boost him up to a 10 attack. And you could use Roy's effect on their 5 drop, stunning him out of combat.
Oh, interesting. So
So,
if that 6 drop is attacking here, what you're saying is we can exhaust these guys to have Roy stun the 5 drop.
yes. And if you can stun the 5 drop, and that's why when we've got like what we got 2 um press the attacks down here hiding in the resource row.
Right.
So you can kind of do it in the way of actually, can you hover over Roy a second? I just want
Oh
to
yeah.
double check his
Sure.
text. Activate, comma, KO resource. That's all the stuff. So you'd have to do it. Okay, so we'll just do it this way. You can exhaust Hawk, Dove, Robin, and Terra, and heck, let's go all in. And Tempest to Roy.
All right.
So
Roy.
he's getting plus 10. So he's got plus 10. He's a 14 attack. Your opponent, and honestly, you can do this during the build step and avoid the possibility of like savage beatdowns and different things.
Mhm.
And before your opponent even leaves the build step, you can take out their field. Because right now, Roy would be a 14, which would be bigger than the standard 6 drop, which is a 12/12, roughly.
Yeah.
So you can tap down that field, and you can do this a couple of different ways. You can activate. So I'm trying to remember exactly. We can do it one of 2 ways. I can't remember quite if we can activate and then use the resource we're going to use in response to the activation and get really tricksy, or if we just have to do it a particular way. For instance, or we'll just play it safe because I can't quite remember timing stuff on it. So you can exhaust Roy to himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now he's 16.
Oh.
Or wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 plus. Yeah,
but
it's gonna be
if we're gonna activate his effect, we need him to be ready to activate, right?
right, but that's what the press the attack is for, because we've got 6 exhausted characters.
Right.
So now you flip over, press the attack.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. Right. So.
Yep.
So we're gonna exhaust him for his first ability, exhaust the Teen Titans, because he can exhaust himself to get the +2 attack.
Yep. So he's a 16 attack right now. So you can flip over, press the attack.
So he readies again. And
yep.
Now you can activate him the KO resource. So we. Oh my gosh! I just saw it. I just saw it. So the resource we want to KO is press the attack, right?
Yep.
And now we're gonna pay the 3 with Garth to get that press the attack back to our hand.
Yep.
So
now
we can play. Oh my god, that's so sick.
So now he's ready again at this point.
So we play the press the attack, ready him again, and now we could activate him KO resource to stun their other character.
Yep. Right. So we can kind of pick whatever we want. Maybe the Tempest. So now we've taken out ideally both characters at this point.
Or actually, yeah. So yeah, we've taken that, but we have to KO another resource, right?
Yep. And we've taken out both characters, so your opponent never left the build step. This is all build step. We're skipping their initiative effectively.
Oh right.
And so, but now Roy here is still 16 attack. So if you want to do more, flip that other press the attack. Ready him.
And now he can attack directly.
Yep, attack directly. So you've got a 6 and a 5, so that's 11 plus your 16 attack, so that's 27. That's half your opponent's life you just did. That probably is close to killing them.
Yeah, and you can actually also. Are you talking about with adding Savage Beatdown to that 16 attack?
No, that was just taking the stun damage. Like if they had a
Oh,
6 and a
oh,
5.
oh, that. Oh, you're calculating all the damage that they would have taken this turn. Okay, got it.
Yep, and then
You add
toss that.
Savage Beatdown plus maybe a power up if they're like at 1 endurance and you need that extra
Yeah,
beef. So yeah, I think they would. That would be pretty good. And so when you are talking about being on the odd or even initiative, it doesn't really matter because if you have this combo set up, you could just do it during your turn or your opponent's turn, and just go crazy with it.
yep, and that was you basically took your opponent's turn 6 away from them. You didn't get attacked. Like that was pretty much all. You ran roughshod over them. And if it doesn't work out for you, if they're not dead, let's say they're at 5 or something really close. Well, guess what? You just ready. Now it's your initiative on turn 7.
Oh yeah, that is true. So now they would probably most likely die on turn 6, right? Is that kind of like the kill turn?
It can, but if it does go to the next turn,
Let's just take the next turn and it's gonna be our initiative. So let's just kind of play it out anyway. And 1 and 2. Oh, okay, this is really interesting now.
okay,
Um,
this is kind of fun. So,
we put our
oh,
location in the resource row,
yeah,
obviously.
just flip it over for right now,
Okay.
because here's kind of a fun trick. If you've got, because you can get a couple different things. We've only got 5 resources to play with, so worst comes to worst, we can search up like Red Star, for instance, but we might not need him. We've got most of our low drops down, so you it'd be a little difficult because we could either get Red Star, and he's just another good body on the field because I don't think we've got a way to power him up. But
Right.
otherwise, what we could do is Optitron will be fun because you can recruit Beast Boy and then search up like Pantha. It's not. I mean, that's not the coolest turn 7 in the world, but you can. That's bodies on the field because at this point, more bodies. You're just gonna do like this will be the kill turn. So you're just gonna go crazy with Roy again. Maybe not even let your opponent get out of the build phase. And what's really cool about that is if they're so low in life, like if they're in this scenario under 10, because they're gonna have a 6 drop already out. So that's 6. They recruit their 7. So that's 13 stun damage. You get enough guys out, you can just stun damage kill them before you even leave the build step. Won't even need combat.
Okay. Now, is there any
And
is there any argument to recruiting and boosting Tim Drake, even though we will lose our Tim Drake that's already on the field for having our characters not being able to get stunned while attacking this turn?
um no, because if your opponent happens to have if they haven't played Pathetic Attempt this entire game, they might have it now. So you could play a little safer, recruit Tim, just make your guys unstunnable, and just team attack the heck out of them because you've got a Teen Titans Go down there.
Right.
You've got access to another press the attack if you need it. So you can do lots of little tricks in here. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's base.
That's something that good that you bring up too. Is like, let's say on turn 4 your opponent did play a pathetic attempt. That's definitely a card to look out for before you do this combo with Roy Harper that we did last turn. So that's definitely something to consider that you want to be wary of when you're playing this deck too, because pathetic attempt does really hurt this deck.
Yes, Pathetic Attempts definitely hurts the power level of Titans, but in Titans' heyday, Pathetic Attempt didn't exist quite yet.
Right,
So
wasn't printed at that point. So,
nope.
yeah. So okay. So I think yeah, very very cool deck. I think we'll kind of stop the playtest portion of here because we kind of talked about it already. But yeah, definitely a cool deck to definitely showcase, and I'm glad we're about an hour and 10 minutes on the stream already. So I think that's a good time to call it quits. But Andrew, is there any final thoughts you want to kind of throw in before we end it here?
Just that the Titans deck, it's got a lot of core things to it, kind of like what we showed earlier. There's definitely some areas you can play with. I mean, depending on if the formats that you guys play in might have tons of hidden characters, you can easily slot out those betrayals for like No Man Escapes the Manhunter or something that allows you to attack the hidden area like Unipower or something. Or it has, you've seen all the little core combos, but it does have a room where you can kind of make it your own thing depending on what you're playing against.
Right. And actually, let me just show let me show the deck really quick too here to show what we're kind of talking about a little bit. So you were saying Betrayal, which is the one that we talked about here. We didn't show it in the playtest session, but yeah, that's definitely, it's one of those cards that was great back in the day, but now there's so many other better cards that you could probably put in place of it if you wanted to like tweak up the deck a little bit. But it's still pretty like, and also Betrayal is really good against decks that have more than one team. That's where you really benefit from it, I think.
Yeah, it was useful. There have been times where it's turn 5, you're playing against a single team, Spider Friends or New Brotherhood or something like that, and your next draw, you draw 2 Betrayal, and you just sit there thinking it's the worst card in the universe, which in that case, in scenario, it probably is. But then there's other times where, like back in the day when you played against a Curve Sentinel deck, that turn 7, you could win the game with that card by itself. Just, if all they've got out there is like a Bastion and a Magneto, and you've got a Tempest, play Betrayal, they have to stun one, bring it back with Tempest, play it again, they stun the other guy. And you basically win the game right there. So, or if you're playing against, some of those, do they still call it a high voltage deck? Just the purely a super aggro deck?
Like the burn deck?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I
okay.
That's the term that I think is used in our game here versus system, is like a burn deck is like the high voltage deck. So definitely, yeah, yes, to answer your question, yes, that is correct.
You're right. Or a number of those kind of school decks. I don't know what maybe they're called anymore. They used to be called medical school, Ivy League, new school, whatever, where they've got sometimes 4 or 5 different affiliations out there. They don't always have a team up yet to get them all teamed up. You just start throwing those Betrayals out there for the free stuns.
Oh, right. So like maybe kind of like scroll decks or yeah, I think like a lot of I think Mega City runs, what do they run? Arkham, Brotherhood, and one other, the Spider Friends too, for Aunt May reasons and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah. So I mean, Betrayal can be useful. Other times, it can be a completely dead card. So if you switch it out for whatever is good for your meta, that works out perfect. Also, I like Finishing Move just because it's an old standard card. If you have access to them, you could probably replace it with Remove from Continuity. And because it's just it was released a lot later than, because Finishing Move came out in Marvel Origins, it's just an old staple. And Remove for Continuity can definitely do this. It's functionally the same card, but with an extra discard, it can become much more.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you so much for coming up on this episode and for joining me in the live stream. I know we're all really busy right now because of the Christmas season, so I do appreciate you taking the time to kind of hang out with me and show me the deck. And hopefully the people watching this video learn something new about Teen Titans. I know I definitely learned something new. So, and I actually do have I have the Gotham Knights Teen Titans build, Brave and the Bold. So I kind of played that casually, but now I kind of want to play this deck to see all the old combos that we did. So, is there any plugs that you would like to give right now? Like, do you want people to find you on social media anywhere?
I don't really have much for social media
Uh,
right now.
okay, okay, no
I
problem. That's why I asked before because I've asked people that I've had on before. I'm like, do you want me to plug your social media? And they're like, oh, I don't have one. So, yeah, that's not a problem. I guess is there any last things you want to say before we end it?
no, just I'm great to be here, and I'm glad I could talk about one of my favorite times when I was younger, playing this deck and going to tournaments with my friends and having fun.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Well, okay, so that's going to be it for the stream and for this episode of the Playground series. You can find, if you missed the live stream or you missed any part of the stream, it'll be up on YouTube within the next week or so, I think. Also, if you guys want to go over to my YouTube channel, that is youtube.com/superfanboyguy, where you'll be able to view this, the video version of the stream. Make sure to check that out. And if you like Versus System 2, I got a bunch of Versus System content on there that you can also check out. There's a couple of playlists of gameplay videos, deck profile videos, past episodes of the Playground series too. And you can also find me on Instagram at superfanboyguy. And if you guys like to support me and the content I create, I do have a Patreon. And the Patreon is pretty sweet because I offer certain tiers where you can get actual signed Versus System cards. And so make sure to check that out, patreon.com/superfanboyguy. And most importantly, make sure to join the Facebook group, the Versus System Collective. You know, there's a lot of great people. That's how I met Andrew, and we kind of got together to do this episode. Lots of great people, especially if you're looking for, Versus System cards, Versus System playmats. Some people will sell some stuff on there. And also, you guys might want to also check category1games.com for other Versus System cards because they are the number one place that I go to buy Versus System cards. So they got a pretty good inventory there. And then they have a function where you can add stuff to a wish list. So if they get it in stock, you'll get an email saying that they got it in stock. So make sure to check that out. I did put a thing in the chat if anybody had any questions. So I'm going to give maybe another minute before if anybody has any questions about the Teen Titans deck. But actually, while we're waiting for that, Andrew, let me ask you, do you have a favorite Versus System card?
Favorite single card? That is a great question. There's Oh wow. Functionally, I mean, I played with this deck a ton, so I always love those. Now, just kind of comic book fanboy style,
Ooh.
I always loved of the few cards I still own is the EA of the 1-drop Blue Beetle and the 2-drop Booster Gold with the Kevin McGuire art.
Oh, yes, the stackers? Or sliders?
Yes.
Stackers or sliders, I forget what they call them.
That one's well, depends. Like Hawk and Dove, their EA is a slider because they're next to each other. Okay. And then Beetle and Booster were a stacker. And so those are probably, just for pure nostalgia, those are probably my two little favorites on there. Just because I really liked the Justice League International run, and right. Kevin McGuire was the artist at the time, and those two were two big characters from it. So it's versus, or what were they, Upper Deck Entertainment, if they're going for like little fanboy specials, that was just a perfect little EA for me.
Oh, very cool. And also, before we end it, I did also want to ask you, so you said you were a fan of the Teen Titans comics. That wouldn't happen to be the George Perez run, would it?
Yes. At one point I owned the whole first 60 issue-ish run before it jumped to the Baxter paper series and restarted with another one in 85, 86. I know
Right.
I'm getting real nerdy here, but no, I pretty much at different points because I've owned collections and I've sold them and I've kind of got them again. And but no, that the Wolfman Perez Titans was fantastic. It maybe petered off a little towards mid '90s area, and but that was just great stuff. It's what kind of got me into comics when I was younger, and I just George Perez is an amazing artist.
Rest in
So, or
peace, George Perez.
yes,
He just, and for some of you that don't know, he just passed away earlier this year, which kind of made this year a little bit rough for most of us fanboys. But like death is a part of life, and you just gotta go on with it. But so anyway, yeah. So Andrew, thanks again for coming on, and this will probably be my last video of the year because I'm going to be taking time off for New Year's and Christmas. Actually, I might do one more update video on the channel, so make sure you guys check that out. And with that being said, Andrew, I want to thank you again for coming on, and just say goodbye to everybody, and thank you for everybody who tuned into the stream. And like I said before, this video will be on the YouTube channel in the next couple days, so make sure to check it out. And we will see you all next time.